There's never a quiet day when Donald Trump is in office. The US market had a rough night. This is Monday for them when the stock market effectively has fallen. The Nasdaq has fallen 4%. The S&P 500 fell 2.7%. According to Reuters, from the 19th of February, which was a high, the market has lost in the US $4 trillion in value. And this is because Donald Trump in an interview refused to rule out the possibility of a recession. And I'll tell you all the blow by blow. But first, remember, like, share, subscribe, sign up for our membership. Okay, so this is what has happened. Monday trade, S&P 500 down is down 8% from the last high, which was on the 19th of February. The Nasdaq is down 10% from its peak in December. Delta Airlines has cut its forecast for growing, because of economic uncertainty. Tesla, and this is a big one, Tesla has lost $125 billion in value in one day. Tesla fell 15.4% in one day. AI chip giant Nvidia was down 5%. And in reaction to that, of course, as of this morning, Asia woke up. Japan's Nikkei was down nearly 1.7%. Korea was down. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong was down. In India, the Nifty and the Sensex started off low, but we recovered quite nicely by the end of the day. But it's still been such a rough period for our market as well. But let's take a look at what's happening with the US market. Is there really a possibility of recession? So this is what happened. Now, US President Donald Trump was in a television interview with Fox News. And he was asked the question, is there going to be a recession or is there likely to be a recession? And here's the thing, he didn't rule it out. He answered, he said, I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. This is a big thing. Now, here's the thing. This is not in his personality. This is out of character. We would have normally expected him to say there's going to be no recession. Everything's going to be great. Nothing to worry about. But the fact that he did not rule it out sort of spooked the markets. And there was a lot of buzz about, oh my God, is there going to be a recession in the US? Now, obviously, the other big reason is the trade wars that Trump's tariffs are likely to start and the uncertainty around all of it. So he keeps announcing tariffs and rolling it back and then announcing tariffs and rolling it back. There's a who blinks first that's happening. He's gotten reactions on reciprocal tariffs from Canada, from China. He's also talking about other countries as well. So businesses are sort of waiting and holding their breath because nobody knows what's really going to happen and if there's going to be a trade war. And it's that uncertainty really that is stoking fears of inflation, increased prices of products in America. And what is likely to happen on the 2nd of April as he keeps delaying that tariff or if he's actually going to implement that tariff. Remember in India, every time there is a budget or every time there is an election, we talk about the fact that the economy likes stability. Business likes stability because when you're planning for the next 1 year or you're planning for the next 5 years, you want to know that the government in charge is going to offer you certain stability in terms of regulation, in terms of trade practices. It's that stability that's currently missing from America, one way or the other. Now, some people might like it, some people might not, but what happens is it becomes difficult for businesses to plan, and that is also causing a certain amount of uncertainty. The third point was JP Morgan Chase put out a report in which they said that the possibility of a slowdown in the US has increased. The risk has increased. So this is what it says. Material higher risk of global recession this year because of extreme US policies is at a probability of 40%. And this, from my understanding, last year was at a probability of 17%. So that 17 to 40% means they're reading a higher risk in the US. The next point was that the Treasury yields, so the US Treasury yields, which is basically government bonds, and the yield from that government bond is actually fallen, which is very rare. And that sort of gives the sense that is there going to be a economic slowdown? So these are all sort of cues for the market that things are not going well. But should we be using the big R word? Is recession valid as a word to be used? Now, again, quick sidestep. Recession is normally defined by economists as a economy that is contracting instead of growing. So remember, we say GDP growth. So India has a GDP and it is growing by 6%. So if the GDP of any country contracts, which means it hasn't grown, it's actually decelerated, contracts continuously for 2 quarters, then you could say you are in recession. Now, this is one possible definition. Most experts say that there's a possibility that the US market growth might slow down, but recession might be an overkill at this point. It's too early to use the word recession. The other big problem, of course, that's causing some nervousness is a spike in jobless claims. So in America, basically what happens is when people lose their jobs, they can file claims saying that they're unemployed, and they get a certain amount of money from the government to continue to be able to run their house. So they basically file unemployment claims and the government helps them. There has been a spike in jobless claims, and one theory is that this is because of the job cuts that are being implemented by Elon Musk's led department DOGE, and apparently by October it's expected that this department will affect 200,000 federal jobs, so government jobs within their system. Also, there is a problem with inflation. Inflation apparently is something that people are keeping an eye on, saying that if tariffs are increased, remember we talked about it, then the prices of products on the shelves will go up and it'll become more difficult for the average American family to buy the things that they need to buy. And so that will hit consumer confidence. So there is let me quote one person. So the chief economist of EY, Gregory Dacko, has said that we're not seeing any indication of a recession, but we are seeing signs that private sector activity is cooling. So it's becoming a little slower, and that is effectively what everybody's saying. There are reasons to be cautious right now, but recession per se might be an overkill. Now, quickly, what is the impact on India? Sensex and Nifty reacts to the American market. So every time the US market, the whole world reacts to the US market. Every time the US market has a rough day, it hits India. Why does it hit India? Although we have recovered, because what will happen is investors will have less FIIs. So foreign investors, many American investors, the big American investors, will have less money to put into the Indian market. We'll have less liquidity, so they'll pull their money out of our market, which is not a good thing for us. Although we have, over the last couple of years, built a stable base of our own money. So a lot of mutual fund money going into our market goes in through what we call DIIs, domestic institutional investors, and a lot of Indian retail investors have created a base which did not exist maybe 10, 15 years ago. We now have, but it's still, even though there will still be a certain amount of nervousness when the FIIs pull their money out of our market and move it back into America. So what's likely to happen? So two things. One is, obviously we're going to have to keep an eye on that US market and see how the FIIs affect our market, and also our IT sector and our pharma sector could witness high volatility, because both IT and pharma are very dependent on the US market. And so if you're talking about larger tariffs, then it's likely that the tariffs will affect these two sectors. Plus, besides that, today there was one statement made by the Ministry of Commerce on the floor of Parliament, saying India and US are planning to renegotiate a trade agreement where both countries will focus on increasing market access, reducing import duty and non-tariff barriers, which means that India is coming to the negotiation table to negotiate with America on lower tariffs. Although the Minister of State for Commerce has said that there's no reciprocal tariffs, or no tariffs from the US has been imposed on India so far as of date, and that is where we stand right now. So it does seem like the US market is getting spooked because of all of the changes that Donald Trump is announcing, and but it doesn't seem like there is a need to use the word recession right now. We're going to keep an eye on it. So you tell me if you believe, and there are two arguments here really. One is that Donald Trump is doing what is best for his country, and he's protecting his people, and in the long term this will be a good thing. The other thing is that this sort of economic instability and the fact that regulations are constantly changing and you never really know what he's going to announce tomorrow is actually bad for business. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Thanks for watching.